Welcome to the Women Who Hunt podcast, where stories from the field are shared, women in the outdoors are celebrated, and we inspire the next generation of hunters. From first-time adventures to lifelong pursuits, this is where passion and community meet. The Women Who Hunt podcast is proudly supported by Gun Traders Australia, Australia's dedicated firearms marketplace for licensed shooters and hunters. A family-owned Australian business trusted across the industry. Gun Traders brings people together through trust and connection. Here, brands don't just advertise, they belong. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Women Who Hunt. Today I'm joined by Bianca. She's a hunter, a working dog legend, a medical professional whose life outdoors goes well beyond the hunt itself. Bianca's been involved in feral pig management, raising awareness for the very real health risks that are carried by feral animals, and she brings together practical experience, knowledge, and a genuine passion for her dogs and the land and responsible hunting. Mate, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
So, how did you get started in all of this, mate?
Oh, God. Probably as a kid, my dad, because I grew up in the bush, so my dad, I wanted horses and stuff, and Dad had horses, and Dad said the only way you're going to have a horse, you got to break it in yourself. You got to look after it. You got to do everything for it. He said, we've never been raised to just get something and then you get on the horse and you ride around and then you just go back inside. That's not how this works. And so it started right from then. And, I think I was like 8 years old or something, and I had to break in my own horse, which is a Appaloosa quarter horse. And my brothers already broke in their quarter horses, and it just started from there. And it was everything. Dad taught me everything from, the care of the horse, clean water, making sure it gets out and it gets exercised, when things go wrong, good nutrition, and all those things. And then it just stemmed from there. I grew up in an Aboriginal community as well. So when I was younger, I learned how to track. And so while I was out riding horses everywhere, my dad would always be pointing out stuff and saying, what that is. So I learned how to track from a very young age and know what in tracks are fresh tracks and stuff like that. And I think it just stemmed from there. And then I think the just obsession, because I've always had dogs my whole life. And I think that's where it comes from, is just, and then being outside, being in the bush, and then it just all evolves together. My father used to do a lot of hunting as well, and my brother. So that's where that's come from. They used to hunt a lot of feral goats in the Flinders Ranges because they're an absolute pest up there. And it just sort of stemmed from there. So it's always been at the core of my whole life. Yeah.
So I'm just going to unpack a few of those things because you dropped a few nuggets in there for me. So 8 years old, working in a horse. What's that?
Yeah. It looks like Dad lifted me up in the saddle. So first you had to put the blanket on the back and you had to just sit there and keep waiting. And I called her Makita, which meant horse of colours. And because my background of my dad's side is an American Indian, so that's where that sort of come from. And so I had to put the blanket on every day. I had to learn how to put the bridle on every day. And every day, it was every morning before I went to school. Of course, when I went to school, because I'm 52 and a half, 53 at the end of the year, I used to have to walk nearly like 5K to get the bus. And so Dad would make me get up like really early in the morning. He said, you got to go down there and feed and water the horses and clean out the horse yards before you go to school. And this is all before I went to school. And then it became putting the bridle on, making sure I've rubbed the blanket over the back again. And then when I get home from school, because you have to catch a bus and another bus to get to school. And then when you get home, you'd have to go through the same process again. Of course, I was thinking to myself the whole time, why the friggin' hell am I doing this shit? Like, I should be riding this horse already, And then it was building. This is like, and Dad sort of said, you're building a bond. Like what you're doing, you're building a bond and you're building a trust. And that is something that only you can get with your horse. So it was just repetitive. And then to the point that day, we sort of like started to put the saddle on. And then, I think the day we put the saddle on, then I got hoisted up there. because, you know, like she was 14 hands, and when I got up on that horse, I just already had that bond. I already knew I had that bond, but then she started pig rooting, and then I just kind of went like, you know, but Dad said, get up, get back on, get up, get back on. And I was just like, you know, he said, you're not breaking the horse. Like a lot of breakers say you got to break the soul of the horse, but my dad's got like a real gentle side to him, but he's firm, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So Dad would always say it's consistency. It's consistency. The training's got to come constantly every day at the same time, at the same way that you deliver it. And if you give so much love and loyalty to that horse will see it back. Like you can see the soul through the horse's eyes. And that's where it'll come from. And because we always had dogs, Dad says the same thing. Love and loyalty from your dog comes from that in return of what you do every day and what you get back. And so I think that's where it sort of like it stemmed from that. And then put me back on again. I remember getting dragged down the road, my foot caught in a stirrup. You know, a horse kicked me in the head. I had a big hoof print in my head. Yeah, Dad's like, because I got caught in the stirrup and I went off, and Dad's like, you won't do that again, you know? And I was just like, I'm sitting there, my head was like out here. Mum's like, holy shit. Dad's like, won't hurt her, you know? And I think, and I did. I grew up tough, and that has taught me the absolute best thing I could ever have in my life is because that's carried on with my dogs, you know, like that whole thing from when they're young is that consistency, clean water, clean food, good nutrition. And that does come back. It comes back 100, 150%. So, yeah.
And talk to me about the tracking stuff.
I grew up in Adnamatna and Pinjarra community, and it was like I get frustrated sometimes when I see people in the city because I think I feel sorry for them in a way, because what I learnt in school, we built titchy wheelchairs and stuff like that. You know, we even, Uncle Terry went out and he'd spear a kangaroo, we'd bring that in, we'd do a cook up, and that was recess. Like that was recess. You know, like we'd dig a big pit and then we'd put this kangaroo in there and we'd cook it up and then we'd eat that. And then, you know, that was what I learnt in school. And it was crazy because I look back now and they're all survival skills. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And that whole, like I think that with the tracking, Uncle Terry and then we'd sit in the sand, and Auntie Elsie used to sit there and say as well, like she'd push through the sand and she'd say, what's that? What's that? And then they'd do the fingers between it. And I'd be like, we'd be sitting there, and because we had all that time while we were cooking up kangaroo, and then they'd like move the sand again, like what's that? And it'll either be a snake or it'd be like a goanna or it'd be a wallaby, because the wallaby's tail, but then the prints of the wallaby's tail where they're just moving, they're not hopping. Everything from lizards, and then when like you look at footprints and you can tell whether or not a footprint is today's, yesterday's, or last week's, all by the fact. Well, so like for instance, with cattle, like Dad used to always teach me about cattle. Dad would say cattle always in the morning will go out to drink, and then they'll graze and they'll come back in at night to drink again. And so when you understand that pattern, when you see a cow's hoofs or even a pig's print in the thing, in between where the pig's trotters are, the mound that's in the middle when it gets pushed down, if that's all dried, that's obviously like a few hours old. But if that's all still wet on the top, then you know that's a fresh print. So a lot of like, especially like a lot of women, if you go out into some mud, go find a bit of mud, put your foot in it, or even just put your hand like that into it and push your hand down. And when the mud pushes up between there, go back and have a look at it in an hour. And then you'll notice, you'll notice exactly what I mean, because this mud here is wet, but then in an hour, this is such a small amount of mud and it's got the sun, and that you see dry crusts on the top. You see other things in there like you'll see like leaves or something, like fine leaves in big prints. They were like, you have a look whether there's been heaps of leaves everywhere or if it's just in those prints, because you know that they've just walked through there. There's so many telltale signs like that I was always taught, especially same looking for wallabies and stuff like that, of where they've grazed. You can tell by the grass of what they've grazed and how long ago they've gone through, by how the wallaby has bitten the grass off and chewed it. you can tell how close behind you are, and that's where I learned all that from. So it's
Wow.
kind of just like involved into buffalo, pigs, camel, whatever, everything. Yeah, yeah,
So when you're walking through the bush,
yeah,
because I'm not that observant, I'm
yeah,
learning.
yeah.
So when you're walking through the bush, what are you just normal, like whatever, going just hang out with the dogs or whatever? Are
Yeah,
you always scanning? Are you always looking? What's that
yeah,
like for you, like
yeah.
normal?
You're listening to the Women Who Hunt podcast, proudly supported by Brackenwear, Australian-made hunting apparel for real hunters who live and breathe the outdoors. You've probably seen me wearing my Brackenwear gear. It's tough, breathable, and built for Aussie conditions. Right now you can grab 15% off your next order at brackenwear.com.au. Just use the code GTA15 at checkout. Brackenwear, the endless pursuit. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, so especially like I taught, I've got like the 3 pups now. Well, they're not pups anymore. They're 18 months old, but they haven't learnt the craft of the 4 adults yet. So I have taught my dogs I can walk through the bush and not even speak to them. Like I can just walk through, and I've taught them bird calls. Especially in Queensland, I could walk all the way through, and I would literally, if I wanted to change direction, I'd do a different bird call to when I wanted to change that direction. So we would move through like a bit of a reconnaissance, which was the perfect way to sweep pigs out, because a lot of pigs, they either hear people talking or, the rustling around, or they hear buggies, or sometimes some dogs are barking, but I taught them to just creep through the bush, and some of the country, you couldn't even get a buggy in there, but we were just like walking through, and you'd be looking at so much stuff of, especially like when a pig has actually, they're pushing their nose through, right? And they're looking for grubs and stuff like that. And if they're in mangrove country, they're looking for small little crustaceans, and they actually eat a lot of seafood, to be honest. Like that's why they go along the mangroves.
Yeah.
And so you can tell, like you can either, mangroves are easy because it's low tide and they walk through, and then you check the tide and you're like, oh yeah, the tide's gone out and these prints are fresh. So you know that they're scoundering along the edge. But then if you're in the foresty areas, a lot of your male pigs, especially if they're territorial, they'll actually go along, they'll actually have a tree and it's their favourite rub tree, and they'll
No
go
way.
along, yeah, and they'll rub. And you'll see this, like most people wouldn't see it, but you'll see this big tree and you'll see this big dirty mark on one side. And then my male dog in particular, he will literally smell that, because normally the boar, he'll be rubbing his big pads on there or his shoulders,
Yeah.
but then he'll actually urinate on it as well. And that's his territory away, he's marking his trees. And if you know what to look for, and then sometimes on a tree, you'll see it'll be the perfect sized tree, and they'll be rubbing their tusks up the side to sharpen them up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, which is, so you'll see that, and that those tusk marks up the tree is a way of them telling other pigs that they're in the area, and the height of how high up the tusk marks are, and how much is scratched on there tells the other pigs how big that pig is. Do you know what I mean?
So
So
it's like a,
it's like me with a crayon. It's like me with a crayon going, I was here. This is how tall I am. And this is how fat my crayon is. Like, it's like, and then I walk off going, yeah, like, do you know what I mean? And that's, yeah, that's what they sort of like do. It's crazy. Like when you sit there, and I think that's why I love being a solo hunter, is because this is all the stuff I take in. Like this is everything I take in, because you don't have any of that loud noise. Sort of, you haven't got anybody talking to you. You've got no anything going on. Your primary focus is just everything. You're hearing things, seeing things, and I think you become more hyphenated to it, because you're starting to smell things. You're looking for things that are putting everything together as a bit of a picture, if that makes sense. But don't get me wrong, I fucking love being out in my buggy. And because I'm getting a little bit older now, like the areas I used to walk, I won't do as much anymore now, because I've got like a really bad heart condition. I've got like right side heart failure. So that's actually been a massive wake up call. And that's been a struggle because I love just walking. I will walk for 20K with my dogs, just wandering around out the bush. I always carry a backpack. My gun's slung in a big backpack. You can buy these cool backpacks that hold your gun in them. And then I got like a belt that's got stuff in it. And then my water, I carry all the dogs' water on me as well. And I missed that because that was really good. But unfortunately, I've had a few incidents where I've just completely blacked out. And so I'm not game enough now to just do these big long walks by myself in case I do completely spud out. Because it's a long way to sort of crawl back. If that makes sense. I don't want to crawl back. But it did happen to me in my buggy, unfortunately. That was really shit. I had like a small TI go to my brain from my heart. And I was actually in the buggy by myself. And I pride myself on being a solo hunter. Like I absolutely love it and I thrive in that space. But that was really bad. I was slumped over the wheel of my buggy. And when I sort of like started to come to, because the small clot sort of cleared from my brain, and sort of when I started to come to, Sila was barking at me like my matriarch. She's my soul dog, this dog, and she was just barking at me. And I think she knew something was wrong. And the pups were just sort of sitting there. I think they were only like about 9 months old at the time, and she was just barking, and there was just I was sort of come to, and I could just hear her in my ear, and she was trying to paw me. And I look back at that and I think, oh my God, like I am so lucky to have her in my life. But then that's sort of like made me put a few things in place now. So I've got like one of my really good neighbours, absolutely lost without him. He actually tracks where I go now, and if I'm not back at a certain time, he can actually see exactly where I am on my buggy. So then I'm not sort of like having that feeling of like if something does happen, my biggest fear is me being in that buggy and the dog's just stuck there and nobody realising where I am, what's happened. Because, like they'd be like, oh, no one would know, it's been 4 days and I haven't come back. Does that make sense? But I've got like an amazing neighbour, and that's like that. And I think that's the hardest thing about being a female hunter, like you have all this independence, like you've got so much independence, but then it will take one thing to just take that independence away of being just that, do it whatever you want, wherever you want to go, you know what I mean? But I'm lucky I've got my neighbour because, he just tracks me and he's like, okay, and if sometimes I get a bit like my ADHD just goes like, oh, I find all this other shit. I'm like, oh, I didn't know this track was open. And then I'm like down there and then I get this little message, are you good? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm good. Like, just like, and I'm just like wandering around doing stuff because I've seen a sign of something on a tree and I've just stopped and gone, hang on, what's that? And then I've looked and there's like heaps of things you can see like when you're tracking is, so that's why I get like a little bit like, I'll go out and I'm like, I'm only going to be like, 2 hours, 5 hours later, because there's these rubber trees, right? And especially all through Queensland, these rubber vine trees they are, when they flower, pigs love them. Oh, they eat them like lollies, So when they're flowering, you know that when you see one flowering from a distance, go over and have a look because all around there, you'll see pigs have come in. But these things only open up flower in the morning. They flower, pigs eat them, and then they're gone in the afternoon. So when they got those rubber vines, you literally find a big patch of rubber vines everywhere. And they grow and then they hang over like that. They're a pain in the ass plant. But if you know that where they are, that's the spot that you go in the morning when they're flowering at that time of the year because
they're going to open and they're going to be there.
Yeah. And then they're like a purple colour. And when I've caught pigs, they've had purple all over their face. It's like Peppa Pig or something, just with just all this purple. And the first time I seen it, I thought, what the hell is that? And then I had a really good look and I was like, oh my God, I was pulling out the rubber vine flowers.
No way.
I realised at that point, they're going bunter for these flowers in the morning. And then so I was like, oh, I'm going to go back and sit there. And you see this big mob come in and they'd just be like, so even like as an adult, like I'm still finding stuff that I didn't realize all over parts of Australia that, from tracking and their behavior, like it's crazy. Yeah.
So take us back to what made you decide to be that solo hunter? Like, what made you decide to go, look, I'm just going to give this a crack on my own?
I think mainly, I think it's going to sound really weird. I think I like beating to my own drum. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like
100%.
like my grandparents had a lot to do with my childhood through me having ADHD, and like I was never allowed to have tomato sauce or anything like that. And my grandfather, or anything that would, go to a kid's birthday party and they'd take the lollies off you because you never have that lolly bag. Mum would be like, nah, like, but my mum never wanted me on Ritalin. Mum was like,
Yeah.
she's not going on Ritalin. Like, she just take all the sugar away. And so I had more time on my hands. And my grandfather used to always say, your independence is what makes you succeed. You know what I mean? Like, so if you can invest in yourself, you are going to get a guaranteed return. And that's always stuck with me my whole life. And then I think, growing up and then having guns around me and knives around me, I always wanted to have my own, and do all those things. So I think I've just got to the point, don't get me wrong, like, having company to go out and hunt with is great every now and then. And I think for me, I like to just change direction sometimes, but I like to count on myself. Like, I like to understand things, be able to fix things. And that's, I think in the hunting industry, that's where I love to empower women to do that. Like, is to be, I mean, I've had men actually say to me, "Oh, you're taking your little puppy dogs for a little ride in your, and I've just gone, yeah. The week after that, I caught a massive boar. Like, and I just thought, sometimes when they say that, it just eggs me on. Does that make sense? It makes me sit there and I think, I'm a bit old now to even argue the point with somebody, but if they had said that to me like 30 years ago, I would have been all up in their grill having an argument about them. But I think like now I love seeing women being able to find that independence within themselves and go, I can do this. If not, I'm going to have a damn good crack at it. And I think that's where I love using Instagram for all the right reasons. Like, Instagram can be used, some people abuse it. I like to think this is a huge platform now for me to sit there and say, what can I teach? Like, if there's one person sitting there going, I'd love to do this, I'd hope that then they can sit there and go, oh, I don't want them to ever think, oh, it'd be too hard for me to do that. I want them to be able to see people that are doing that and teaching what they know, because you're only as good as the people around you that you teach. That's the way I see it. And so if you can share what you know, knowledge is power. So by sharing all this, and there's so many people that reach out to me because they don't want to reach out to me on a comment, and they'll actually like reach out to me and go, hey, with this. And I'm like, oh yeah, like, and I love that stuff because I feel like a little bit of sneaky sides coming through that message with them, that they're just finding that little bit of independence, and they're just like, I want to do this. And I'd hate to think that somebody would just shut them down. Like, I like to like fill that cup for them and make them go, oh yeah, like that was great. Like, I learned something and I'm going to go off and do that. And then knowing that they feel like there's so much support out there, for women hunters that can go and do it. And another thing too is there's a lot of women out there with husbands that hunt, right? Now, I speak to a lot of hunters, men hunters, and you know what they say to me, believe it or not? I wish my wife would come. And, and I sit there and I think I've seen a huge shift in probably the last 10 years, maybe. I think the last 10 years, there's so much more women out there that's going out there with their husbands in the buggy. They got the kids strapped in, in the side-by-side, the kids are strapped in, and they're going off and she's filming, and, he's running after the pig and she's filming it. And I love that. I absolutely I love that shit. And that's because, you know, like my nan used to say, those that play together stay together, you know. And
Yeah.
so when I see that, and then I see some women are now watching all these other women out hunting and going out with their partners. And I even had one dude, believe it or not, 6 months ago, and he says, oh, he said, my missus has been watching all this now, and she wants to go hunting, and he said, so I had to buy her a gun, I had to buy her a knife, and he said, don't get me wrong, he said, best thing. He said, it's the absolute best thing. I always wanted her to come out hunting all the time. He said, it's double the expense now, but he said, it's okay. Like he said, I'm absolutely stoked to have her out. Like it's the best thing. The kids are out too. We can make camping trips of it now.
Yeah.
And that just makes me feel so goddamn good knowing that, you know, I don't want those wives sitting at home ever thinking, oh, you know, I won't be able to do that, or they don't want me there. Because I think 90% of the husbands I've ever spoke to would love their wives to go. And
Me
even
too.
if they just sat there, they wouldn't have to run out and stick a pig or, you know, wrestle a buffalo. But just
being at
being
camp. Yeah.
just being there with them, you know, like, so they're creating a journey together, and like that experience, and you know, they can laugh at each other's shit, you know, like, I remember when you ran and you fell ass overhead, you know, and you ripped your shirt, and they laugh about stuff. And then, you know, that's the kind of stuff that I think that whole side of it. But for me, I think I got so many dome dogs, like, and I love that. And so I think I've always done stuff on my own, and I think I'll always still do stuff on my own. But the journey of doing that, and the people I've met along that whole journey, you never kind of feel alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, because there's always people that are sharing that journey with you. I remember my pig, that big 167 kilo boar, 2.5 years I tracked him. Everybody thought I was dreaming about it, and I thought I'd seen it, and it wasn't. And I knew what I was seeing. I was tracking him. He had the same dew claw that was kinked off to the side, and I knew. And when I got him, I was crying, and I was ringing so many people, because these people were following me for 2.5 years that believed me.
Until you got him.
And so that's what I'm saying. I never felt alone, because when I got that pig, there were so many people along that journey with me. And so it was mind blowing. So I never really felt alone. Does that kind of like make sense? So you never feel like a full solo hunter, even though I go out hunting by myself. When you come back and, you know, you're sharing it, there's so many women out there that are egging you on, and, you know, I love all that stuff. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Women Who Hunt podcast, proudly supported by Nature's Perks, the ultimate outdoor adventure hub. Nature's Perks helped us take our hunting to the next level, and they can do the same for you, helping you grow your skills and confidence in the great outdoors. Become a member today at naturesperks.com.au and unlock exclusive benefits, fortnightly prize draws, guided hunts, fishing charters, and special discounts. Nature's Perks, where the wild side of life rewards you. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah.
What's the question get asked most when people reach out to you?
I think it's my Hounds Welfare Wednesday, like 100%. And that's where that was originally born from. So my background, I used to be a second fix carpenter originally, and then got sick and tired of the government taxing everything. Then I went into medicine, and I've stayed in medicine for 25 years. Used to work in operating theatre. Yeah. And so I've kind of merged everything together. And then, so I'm a paramedic in the ADF, in the Army. So my job, part of my job is not only a paramedic for humans, but I'm a canine paramedic in the Army. So I look after all our bomb dogs and our police bite dogs, and do a little bit of work with the NT police as well. So with their dog handlers. So I teach all of that, all the paramedics that we have. I teach them about all the canine medicine and the emergency medicine, their prolonged field care, their primary care for the dogs, because we deploy with all these dogs, and we go out field with these dogs. So these dogs, when they get injured, That's my job, is to sort of, and then I get a lot of messages of like, hey, you know, which is why I started the Hounds Welfare Wednesday. I started putting it on my story originally, but then my story said, your story's full. And I was like, oh, you know, your highlights full. So I went part 2, and then it was like, that's full. And I was like, oh shit, this is going to happen. So then I started the Hounds Welfare Wednesday page, and that, when I get so many people reach out and go, hey, what do you think I should do with this? Like, this is what, and I said, like, talk to me, what's going on with your dog? And they've said, like, he's breathing a lot. And I said, so really rapid breathing. And they're like, yeah. I said, what does his eyes look like? And, you know, show me what the gums look like. And then, you know, I've talked them through this stuff, and I said, no, that's a medical emergency. Like, get them to the vet. Now, these are people that live 6 hours from a vet, you know, and in some of the most remote parts. And or sometimes I get a lot of guys that actually go, hey, like they'll just ask me straight up, like, you've said this in one of your Hounds Welfare on Wednesday, like, I don't kind of like understand it a little bit. And I've kind of just gone, oh mate, like I often do a voice message. So I'm just like, yeah, sorry. Like, and I start just talking about it. And then they've realized, oh, wait, they can voice message me back. And then they'll voice message me back. And it's like this conversation that's sort of like going. And I think the amount of dogs that I've actually helped, and then some people have actually said to them, no, it's fine. Like, you just literally keep the dog calm, keep the dog cooler, and stuff like that. Or if it's a paw injury, some people will just panic and they'll be like, oh my God, it's bleeding. There's so much of this stuff. And I've looked at the photo, and it's like, it's a cart, but it's not one of those that you got to get in the car and drive 6 hours to the vet and at, you know, flat out speed, like, you know, Speedy Gonzalez to the vet. So there's a lot of stuff like that. And I said, like, if you wrap the dog's paw up and do this, or and that's where it sort of started. And I realized by putting the Hounds Welfare Wednesday and doing it by topic, then people could always go back and just go pertinent to that topic, and then they could just hit that topic and go, oh, like, or I just did one the other day on dog's tails, how to bandage the dog tails and shock and fluids. So when a dog's going into shock, because a lot of people won't realize, they're like, my dog's acting weird. So I've just done one on shock. I've just yet to upload it yet. And I get a lot of people that reach out and go, hey, like, can you do one on this? So I did one on cellulitis. And yeah, like, if people reach out to me, I'm happy to do a story on it. I just see a lot of hunters that have got a vet that happily rip them off, or happily to frown upon hunting really badly. And it's quite sad because they don't have that relationship with their vet. And that's really sad, because these people care 150% about their dogs. Like, they'll do anything for their dogs. But then when they go to the vet and it's $4,000 for just something so small, and they've sort of seen them coming. And I find that hard, but I'm trying to build a huge relationship with hunters with the vet. So they can actually sit there and go, you know, because sometimes they don't want to go to the vet for this reason. And then this dog's got this massive abscess, it's septic. And then when they do get to the vet's like, why didn't you bring the dog in? Like, so they look at the owner like the owner's being cruel to their dog, but there's been that past relationship where another vet has just completely ripped them off. So they know they're going to be in there for $4,000 for something, and then the dog's in there overnight, and then they're just ripping them off. So by building that relationship and going, okay, if you do this and this and this, and then go to the vet, sometimes you get in the vet early, the bill can just be really, really cheap. And the vets, they're building that relationship, if that makes sense. I'm not a vet, but
vet for
100%. And, you know, or they just think that dog's, you know, just sort of like exhausted, but that dog's actually deteriorating, and they don't realize. And then the dog's just gone into their bed, and they're just sort of like, next minute they've gone out there and the dog's passed away, and then they live with regret. Like, I get that a lot. A lot of people message me and go, oh my God, like, I feel like I should have did this and I should have did that. And then I've done a story on something, and they've just said, that's what happened to my dog. Like, how did I not know that? And I said, well, you don't know that because there's no sites out there for any of this. Like, same as CPR. People want you to pay $500 to do a CPR course for your dog. Like, I'm sorry. That shit should be free. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, my Hounds Welfare Wednesday is I want a completely free platform where you don't have to subscribe to me. So I make money off of all my information. My information's there because I love everybody's dogs. For some reason, I just love everybody's dogs. And I just want the best for everyone's dogs. And I want the owners themselves to feel confident in the decisions they're making for their dogs. And that whole decision making comes down to everything from their psychological aspects, their mental health, their nutrition, because me and Lydia work really, really closely together, and we bounce off of each other with so much stuff. You've probably seen so many of our collab stuff together. We chat all the time, like we're just always we send each other voice messages and then we just get back to each other when we can. And we're always trying to cover different areas. So we're putting out all that information, and especially for like, if there's like a female hunter that wants to get her own dog, and then she can sort of sit there and bounce around the pages. And then you've got Greg Tonkin, and then you've also got Ned Macon, which is the Macon method. They've got some huge videos on how to train your dog, from all the way down, from everything from the weight stage, and the recall. They teach all that. So we're basically putting out a platform, filling in all those gaps. We've got the medicine, the training, the nutrition. Do you know what I mean? And putting out that info so nobody ever has to feel lost and sitting there going, oh, I can't pay $600 for a damn CPR course.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, hey, it's free. Yeah.
Yeah. And have any of your customers not customers, but followers and that have engaged with you, have they ever asked you a question that you were like, oh man, and then you've learnt something because of the questions you've been asked?
I think there's some areas, like, I think skin conditions is a huge one because you don't get the full scope of it. So sometimes I've had to go off and go, holy shit, like I treat for trauma. Like that's my main thing, is like treating trauma for dogs. But then when you start going right down into the skin conditions, sometimes I'm just like scratching my head going, holy shit, like it looks like this, but it doesn't look like that. And then sometimes I've just bounced off my vet and I've said, what do you reckon about this? And she's like, it's so hard to see from a picture. But then I've had to keep bouncing back to that person constantly and go, what are you feeding them? Like, where are you sourcing this meat from? Or is there anything in the area? Because a lot of dogs, they chew a lot of shit, you know what I mean? And a big problem is pig's ears. Pig's ears from the pet barn. I'm sorry, pet barn, but they import all their pig's ears. Those pig's ears are covered in wax. And when that goes into the gut, and I only learnt this 2 years ago, that all these pig's ears are covered in wax, and that's the only way they can import them into Australia to stop any pests coming in their ears. So when that goes into the dog's guts, wax doesn't absorb easy. So when it goes in, they've got villi or in their stomach. So when that absorbs, it comes back out in these major skin conditions. And I only learnt that 2 years ago. And so if you're going to get pig's ears, make sure they're sourced from Australia and from like Australian source pigs, dried pig's ears, not ones that are bagged up in a bag from the supermarket. But there's little things like that I found along the way, like 2 years ago. Like I said, I only just learned that 2 years ago. And I was sitting there, I was going round and round circles with this person, and I was just sitting there going, I actually dumbfounded, as to what's going on. And then, like some skin conditions definitely have to be treated from a vet and be put under a microscope and stuff like that. But this was one that was like, holy shit, something so simple. And then when you go back down that path and look, you're just like, shit, yeah. So you are learning a lot. And I think I'm learning a lot about what hunters want to know, like what they want to learn and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
So talk to me about your hunting. So primarily, what are you hunting with? How did you start? What do you target? I think I already know the answer to that one, but talk us through your hunting and the stuff that you do as a hunter.
Yeah. So most of it's my night before prep. takes me a while. But, and this is where sometimes I sit there and go, God damn it, like being a solo hunter is really hard because you've got to get all their collars on charge. You got to fuel up your buggy. You got to check your buggy, because remember you're going out by yourself. You got to make sure everything's in the buggy, that if you've had you had to put a plug in the tire, make sure you got more plugs with you, always replenishing your stuff. So once you've checked the buggy and your stuff's on charge, you've fed the dogs, and then you're like, yep. And then you got to start filling up the water containers and all that sort of stuff to take out, and then when you go out hunting, and then it's the guns as well. So I always got to clean my own guns, and that sort of stuff, and make sure they're all put away and clean from the last hunt so they don't go rusty and shit. And then depending on what I'm targeting, mainly years ago, I used to just mainly just shoot all the time. But then I do definitely enjoy the dogs doing all the work now. Like I think that's a sense of pride is that. So by the time you've got all that stuff ready and together, and then you're finally in your buggy and you're finally going out for a hunt, then you're sort of like your eyes and ears are just scanning. And I think it's one of those things. I know where the buffalo are. So if I'm actually going to go out and actually drop a buffalo, it's to drop a buffalo to eat and for the dogs to eat. I would never just go out and shoot something for the sake of shooting a buffalo, because yes, they are a feral pest. However, it's a lot of work butchering a buffalo. That is a lot of work, and I'm not one to just leave the whole carcass behind. And then if I haven't got the knives with me, then I've seen a buffalo and I'm like, I'm leaving it, because I'm not just going to shoot it for the sake of it, just to get a photo with the buffalo. So if I'm going out to source for meat, I definitely leave the dogs behind, and I go exactly where I know where the buffaloes are, and I've got my knives with me. I've got all my garbage bags, so I can just bag that meat up and pretty much bone it as much out as I can, and then leave the rest sort of for the dingoes and stuff like that. Pigs, if you're hunting pigs, this wet season we've had's been huge, like massive wet season. So a lot of the area took so hard to go out and for the areas to open up. And that's another thing. Like if you're going out and you've got like a couple of buggies with you, then that's great, because if you get bogged, you got old mate to winch you out. Me, I get bogged. It's like, okay, I got 7 dogs, and then, the 6 heavyweight asses that are on the back of that. And then you're trying to get out the bog by yourself. You're trying to walk out in the mud, winch it out. You're trying to take your max tracks off, put it underneath the buggy. So, Simon from Optic Hunting, bless him. And that's why I'm wearing his hat today as well, to support, because they burnt down, and like they've been the biggest support, like huge support for women. Like you can just ask them anything and they're happy to help you with anything, like whether it's plates, you can ask them anything about scopes, guns. They don't sort of like talk down to you. They really help you out and explain things, and they don't explain them to you like you're stupid. And that's what I love about him. So he rigged me up this thing so that I could wrap it around a tree, click it on, and then I got all the dog leads coming off. So I can actually click the dogs onto each around the tree. And then I taught the dogs to just wait. And I did this like 10 times. Like I'd pull up in the forest, pretend I was bogged, and then take each dog off, click them on there. Sila's really good, Mong's really good, but then if there's a pig in the area and I'm busy trying to get out of it, I look up, next minute my dogs are gone. I'm like, oh shit, and I'm one of those that wants to get so fast to my dogs. Like I need to get to those dogs really quickly, because the fact of them dogs have just ran that far, fighting a pig to hold that pig, and then you need to get to them quick, because the last thing you'll do, that dog's just burnt so much glucose in their muscles and they're tired. That's when they get injuries. And so let alone if you've got like a big dog killer with a big sharp tusks on him. So because you're not looking at the pig and you're running like hell, you don't know what the tusks are like. You don't know whether that tusk is just ripping your dogs open. So he made this up for me so that if I'm bogged, I click all the dogs on there, and then that way the buggy weighs less, which means I can 100% concentrating on digging myself out of the mud, or fixing the flat tire, or whatever, or trying to get in and out of an area because you haven't got someone go, yeah, back, go forward, go back. You're just getting out going, and then you get back in and you're just like, oh, shit. And then you're again reversing again, and then you're like, shit. So I've got a reverse camera now. So I've got this wireless reverse camera. So I look at it, touch it on the screen, I just ching, 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 and I can just get out now. So it's independence, see? It's just beautiful. I would think about how can I get myself out of this, and if I had a reverse camera, I wouldn't have to keep getting out the buggy to see if there's a tree behind me, at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's pitch black dark, you know what I mean? Next minute, you've just gone down into a deeper bog area and you're just like, shit.
You're in a hole.
This camera has saved me like so many times, but just things like that, like having that made up so that I don't have to worry about my dogs. I can get out of that. And I think the couple of things that have spooked me a little bit. I think that last hunt I went out a couple of weeks, and then Mong's nose was going, and I've also trained all these dogs myself. Like I've never had another dog that I've put my dogs with to learn. It's just constantly me teaching my dogs all the time, and then. I think because Sila's got a damn nose for it. Like she's crazy. Like this dog wants to do everything. She's independent, so me and her butt heads a lot. She's like, I'll just go it up myself. And I'm like, no, you're not. But Mong's nose was up, so I let him off and he was circling. And I was like, shit. Next minute, I said, I was like walking, and I've taught the dogs that if me and one of the couple of other dogs are walking around, just seeing, because Mong can smell something.
Yeah.
So I just switch the buggy off and I just start walking around. I've had to teach the pups to shut up because they're just like, oh, as soon as you leave, it's like, shh. Do you know what I mean? So I had to teach them that. So they've been quiet. So we were just walking around, and it's like, next minute I said, no, Mom, I said, I think he's gone. Like, I think he's gone through, and put him back on the buggy. Sila just had her toe amputated like 4 weeks before that. So she had her leg in bandages. So she was well and truly clicked on. And as I went to go along, next minute, this big boar just puts his head up, and I was like, oh, he put his head up. Sila's seen him. She starts chanting, like she does this loud chant, like she's chanting. Next minute, she's chanting. Boar's running. I'm driving, and it was boggy as shit. And I was like, please don't go that way. Oh, he's going that way. So next minute, Sila jumps, and I'm like, I ain't got time for this shit right now. I stopped the buggy, and she was hung up by a lead, and I unclicked her and went to put her. She was gone. Ishka was gone. And so the other three pups are just like, what the hell? Like, and I was just, this is the madness that goes on with my hand, right? So I'm constantly talking to my dogs like they're human beings. I'm like, just hold on. Like, so I'm going, and I'm reversing because that's muddy. I'm going back around. I'm doing this whole bloody thing. Next minute, I realize I'm looking at the tracker and I'm just watching my dogs disappear. And that is the scariest shit because I'm watching 400, 500, 600, 700. And then all of a sudden I just went, I need to stop. And then you're trying to make calculated decisions, do you know what I mean, really quickly. I could see Ishka at 400 and I was like, I'm going to call her back. I called her back and she came back. I loaded her up and I tried to go around the other way. Sila realized that, like, I called her back. She sort of come back. She was at 500 and I got a whistle, actually. I got a massive whistle, like it's those netball whistles. I've never played netball. But I will whistle that whistle because there's no point me yelling, but they'll hear a high-pitched whistle. And I'm whistling because Mong was already 700. He was gone. And then she sort of like, she heard it and circled back like I do this really high-powered whistle. And she hears it and then she was coming back. I chucked her back on the thing and I'd done this U-turn and I thought, if I go back around that road, I reckon I can catch him on the other side. So I went and next minute he was just gone. Like it was like 1.6 kilometers with a big question mark. And I was just like thinking, where has he gone? And we are flying around like the Dukes of Hazzard around this corner. My Frenchie's holding on for dear life. And we go around and next minute, as I'm going along, I'm watching the tracker and it still had a question mark on it, but it was starting to get to like, it got to like 1.2 and 1.1. And then I was like, and it was saying it was that way. So I'm sending it like a mad woman. And I'm like, of course, I'm talking to him and he can't even hear me. I'm like, I'm coming, mate. I'm coming, mate. And then all of a sudden I get over and it clicks back in. And that's the worst feeling ever in the world is when it just goes to a question mark on your tracker and it's just, where is he? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And next minute I come up to him and he's just standing there and there's pigs just standing there behind him and they're both just looking at each other. And I'm like, what the fuck? Next thing, Sila's just like, she takes off. It goes again for another like 400 bloody meters. And they end up in a jungle having this duel. And then that was when Mong started to go down with lactic acidosis because he was absolutely buggered. Him and this pig, they ran this whole marathon. And then the pig was so exhausted and so was Mong. They were just standing there going, well, I don't know. Okay. And I get there. But then
I'm tired too. Let's just have a rest for a minute, right?
It's just like the shit that you see. Nobody would believe it because I got nobody filming my antics in the buggy. And next minute, I'm like, hold on again. And we're tearing over there because Silo going, Ishka. Next thing we're in the jungle and I'm climbing through all this shit. And I finally get there. And that was when that boar charged me. And I've been charged so many times by boars. And I don't know whether it's just my childhood or what, but you just get this huge thing as like, you're not going to fuck with me and my dogs, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
I've literally jumped on boars and just slid down their back of their rump like I'm breaking a pig in or something. And as I've slid down, I've grabbed them by their hocks. And I think that was stupid. That was really stupid because if he turns around, he could just rip me with his tusks. But I think that love and that loyalty that comes with my dogs is just, they're on their ears and they're fighting, but I want them to know that I got their back, you know. And I see so many people today with their phone, and that breaks my heart because I sit there and I think, I've never cared about likes. I don't care about likes. If I wanted to be on likes, my account would not be on private. It would be public, right? I would open it up for people all over the world to be like, oh, yeah, I'll follow this random person. I don't really care. I never, ever cared about likes. So you'll notice I'll never stand there and film it because when you're on your own, you ain't got time to stand and film it. You know what I mean? You've just got to, your main priority is to stab that pig as quick as you can because not only that, I'm an ethical hunter too. Like I don't want to see a pig suffer. I don't want a whole pack of dogs just going around and around and around and around going, yeah, look at my dogs, right? Yeah. Because that pig's got a soul too. Like, even though they're a feral pest, they wreck everything. They carry so many diseases for local wildlife. They destroy local habitat. Like the watering holes that they wallow in, fresh birds and stuff. Birds need fresh water in order for their eggs to harden because if they drink in bacterial water, it breaks down the calcium. So their eggs, and the same with lizards. So when they're wallowing and wrecking all this thing, all our native wildlife is suffering, and it's suffering so bad. And when I've gone in, especially through Queensland, I was lucky enough because I'm by myself. Companies have come to me and said, we want all these pigs gone. And I've spent a long time on those blocks eradicating pigs. But then I did a video and seeing the brolgas come back and seeing the palm cockatoos come back and seeing them breed and seeing the bilbies, like the little, not bilbies, they're little, what are they called? Bandicoots. When you see them thriving because their local food and water is normal. And when you see that, your heart is just like, I did good. Like this is what I did good. And this is why I say all the time, any animal activists come out, because if you think I'm just killing a pig, I'm killing it quick, humanely. But I'm saving so much more wildlife in the process. It's not, and that's what I was saying about going out and hunting a buffalo. If I'm going to take a buffalo, it's to take it to eat for the dogs and all the backstrap, and then I make jerky out of it. Yeah. Nothing goes to waste. And so that's why I'm saying if you're going to go out and you want to target something, I'll go and target a buffalo, or I'll go out to actually look for pigs. So, yeah.
And how do you pick? So you've got 3 pups, right? That are not pups anymore. How do you pick who's going to be the next member of your family?
Well, the reason I was only going to keep 2 of Sila's pups. Ended up keeping 3. Tulka came out like a horse. She's actually like my little pony. You can put a saddle on that one. She's just a freak. She come out like Uncle Gidgey, which is Sila's father's Rocco, and he was a big dog, but their Uncle Gidgey, massive. So she's just a throwback from that. I had all their DNA done as well, so they've got like they got the wolfhound and the Bullab's not a true breed to itself. As you know, it's made up of a couple of different breeds. And then they've got the Bull Mastiff in them. And so Sila's nose is unbelievable. So I wanted her to have pups that can back her up. She's the dog that, her and Mong will fight to the death. And that scares me. Like, that scares me massively, because I don't want just them two going out. Ishka's a bailer. She's my grey wolfhound. She will bail. So quite often when they've lugged up a pig, Ishka's the one that I can hear, roll, 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 roll. And so she's the one that I'm going to, because she'll stand back and she'll just roll, roll, roll. And then, of course, Oogie, he does keep up. And then, believe it or not, the French Bulldog used to be bull baiters in France. So they were never, ever, ever bred as a lap dog. They were always bred as bull baiters. They used to send him in the ring, and when the bull had his big horns and he'd put his head down, the French Bulldog would run between their legs and grab the bull by the nose. Their nose is really sensitive, and the French Bulldog would hold the nose down and it would stop him pulling his head up, and then they could lasso the horns. So I got Oogie, $4,500 French Bulldog, for that reason. Like, it wasn't just a random choice, I just want this lap dog. And so they all complement themselves. Sila and Mong, Sila's a finder. She's a finder, lugger, she'll track, she does everything. Mong's the same. Mong's got a lot more, he's so much strength in that dog, it's insane. And then Oogie grabs its nose, but Ishka's barking. So then I wanted her to have 2 of her daughters to be able to follow her footsteps and learn from her. Unfortunately, Tulka thinks she is the biggest pig hunter in the world, and she thinks she should be having a trophy already at 18 months, and she won't learn from her mother, thinks she knows everything, goes off half-cocked everywhere, and constantly I'm literally looking for her because she's just gone off somewhere over there, and it's like you don't even know what you're looking for. She's a big dopey idiot. Like, she's almost like Scooby-Doo. When you look at her, you say to her, like, what are you doing? She's like, Like, she's just insane, right? And then you've got Sania, little Sania. She's a chip off the old block with her mother, like, eager to learn, but doesn't want to ever step on her mother's toes. She's a bit cheeky, but her mother puts her back in her place. But where Sila's like this, Sania's right at her rump. So she watches everything her mother does, and I think she's going to be the best to support her mother in that. And then you've got Naja, which is completely deaf. She was born deaf. When she had her pups, there was 9 hours later, she delivered another 4 pups. And in those pups that she delivered, 3 of them had already passed away. But little Naja came out, and she was all kinds of colour. And yet she survived. Her mother didn't want her. She would just push her to the side. Sila knew something was wrong. But me, being me, I was like, nah. And so she's deaf. And as I said, she knows 22 sign languages. And it's insane, but she doesn't leave Sania's side.
Roll back for a second. Your dog knows sign language.
Yes, 22 sign languages. Yeah.
How does
it's
that
crazy.
happen?
Well, it was little things like when I wanted her to get down, I would just tap her on the nose and go down, like down. And then she was like, and she'd watch the others. So I would say down, and then I'd go down, and she'd go down. And then if I wanted her up, I'd go up to her like that, and I'd go hold, wait, come here. So that means come here, which means she can, as long as she's looking at me, it's okay. But if she's not looking at me, it's all kinds of like move here, like sort of thing. But she won't leave my side. It's insane, and she won't leave Sania's side. So I haven't put Sania and Naja on a pig yet. They've had they've been around pigs, but the other dogs have already brought the pig down, and then I've showed them the pig, but they haven't had a pig that's actually fighting back. I think even though people say, oh, my dog's 9 months old and is pulling up his own pig, that's great, right? But a dog's brain doesn't fully mature until it's 18 months old. They can't make the best calculated decisions. And so you can teach them everything you know, but then in a high stressful situation, a dog will only work off instinct. And at that age, they don't know the instinct. So that's why I think Sila's made it to where she has, because she's so brave and just so independent and strong, but her brain was matured, so she makes calculated decisions, and she's made some huge decisions that I've sat there and my brain's been blown away because she's chosen not to lug that pig up until I was there.
Wow.
Like that big boar, for instance, she was bailing that pig, her and Ishka, bark, 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 bark. And when I broke through those mangroves in that video, I was holding my phone, I'm like, next minute, because I couldn't hear that squeal, and I thought, oh, I can hear a grunt, which means he's a big boar.
Yep.
And then straight away, as soon as I got there, and I was like 10 meters, she heard me coming through there because I'm yelling out, Mama's coming, Mama's coming. And as soon as I got through those bushes, she grabbed that pig by the ear because she knew Mum's going to back me up. Like, Mum's got me. So she makes calculated decisions like that, which blows my mind. And I know that Naja won't leave Sania's side. So when they're running together in the bush, she's right behind her, and then Sania's right behind her mother. But then when she's on a pig, that's the bit where I have to sort of like go, okay, this needs to be controlled. I think Naja will bail. I just worry about Sania because she's a brave little girl, but she's a little girl. So that's that fear, whereas Tulka's just going to come in like a bloody, a bulldozer and go, I'm here, I've got this. There's so much to learn.
Everyone.
Yeah, and then so when I get to that point, I actually want to run, when we've had a fair few under them, I want to split the pack, and then I want to, I've got a lot of stations I can go to, so I want to go out and I want to rest, like take some for a hunt, and then rest those that when they get back, and then take the other one. So I won't always have 7 dogs out with me hanging off the buggy like a crazy dog lady. But at this time, I sort of like need the older ones to sort of like set the standards for what's okay. Because it gets quite chaos. Like I won't lie. It is quite chaotic. And I'm having full conversations out there. If anyone seen me, they'd think I was mad. I'm having full conversations with the dogs like constantly, and sometimes I think they know what I'm talking about on the way back. Like, I'm like, did you see that? I can't believe we just got that. Like, oh my God, look at you, Oogie. Like, you nailed it. And Oogie's looking at me like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of you for that. Like, we're having this full conversation going back. And I think, oh God. But that's the best bit about solo hunting. You can talk to them, and then they're just excited because dogs feed off of energy. A lot of people don't realize dogs understand energy, and they don't understand our communication. But when your energy's good, they feed off your energy. If you're in a bad mood or you're pissed off or angry, they feed off your energy. They don't know what they've done wrong. And that's why when I come home from work, like if I've had a full stressful time at work, sometimes I'll sit down the road and then I'll just sit there, take a big deep breath. Sometimes I'll even get out my car and I'll just walk around my car, take some big deep breaths before I come into the house, because I don't want the dogs to think they've done something because I've come in with bad energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you've got to come in and you've got to have good energy. And I think that's because so many people go, oh my God, how are your dogs so goddamn well behaved and so good? Like, and inside the house, like my dogs are inside the house while I go to work. They got a doggy door and they got air conditioning and they got the TV on, and they haven't eaten my lounge. They haven't destroyed anything. They haven't ate the computer, run amok in the house, gone through the cupboards. Is because of that energy, I believe, that energy. I've set a good standard for energy. Yeah.
So we're coming to the close of the episode. I've just looked at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we've been talking. So
yeah, I know. I told you I could talk. Yeah.
So for you, what does it mean to you to be a woman in the hunting world?
I think opening doors for other women, and independence, like having independence. And I want to pave the way so other people can go on that journey and feel like they've got support out there and they can have that independence, and start doing these things. There's so much support there for that. Yeah.
And when people think of you, what do you want them to think about?
I'd like them to think that I'm kind and compassionate, and that all the knowledge I have for my dogs, I share it. And that I'm very tough and resilient, and I want that to be a huge thing that comes through. Like, I didn't get to where I got through giving up. It's finding a solution to your problem, and sometimes I don't have the solution, and that I don't want people to think that I have all the answers, because majority of the time I don't. I've just got to figure it out, fuck it up, and then go, okay, what did I do wrong? Yeah. So I think mainly kind and compassionate, and but tough and resilient. Yeah.
I think you've nailed it.
Yeah, I have, and I swear a lot. I don't mean to, but I've got a potty mouth. Mum will be horrified. She hears this.
So
Yeah.
what's next for you, mate?
Oh, I think just I don't know. I think I'm enjoying. I think I've definitely made peace with myself. Like, I had something happen quite traumatic a long time ago, and I'm single by choice. Like, I'm not single, and I'm out dating. I gave up on that years and years ago. So I am single by choice because I've made peace with where I'm at. And like I said to you at the start, I've invested in myself and I'm enjoying the return. I feel like I'm like my own superannuation fund. I'm actually
such a good idea.
I'm enjoying my own super because I've put so much into me. And I want other women to do that. I want so many women to just go, yeah, fuck it. Because, women have kids. I've got kids. My kids are 30. And both of them got their own houses, their own partners. And, so I don't want women to get to that point. The kids have left home. I want them to sit there and go, woohoo! Like, what can I go do now? Does that make sense? And and go, I'm going to invest in me now because I've raised my kids. I've done all this stuff. Or I'm still raising my kids. Let's take the kids out for a hunt. Let's go do this stuff. Like, yeah, I think that, and I'm just like I said, I'm just cashing in on my super. I've done all this, and I say yes to myself on a constant basis. Yes, you can go buy that new gun. Like, yes, you can just pack up and go that weekend. Like, yes, you can have more dogs. Yeah. Yeah.
Before we wrap, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't covered?
No, I think like with my Hounds Work for Wednesday, like, don't ever feel that you can never, if reach out and go, just don't ask me about your cat, but but yeah, like, reach out, like, honestly reach out. And if you've got people out there, reach out. Like, I think that's, I think if we didn't cover that, I think hopefully they've got that from me waffling on about heaps of stuff. I hope that that's what they've gathered from all this, is like, I'm only a message away. You know what I mean? And I know my account's on private, but my Hounds Welfare Wednesday is not on private. And so anybody can message me through there, even if they want to ask me about deer hunting. Like I've got so many people across, because I used to hunt deer as well. So I've got so many people across everywhere in so many areas dotted all over Australia that I can 100% say, this guy, expert in deer hunting, follow his page. I'm a networker. Happy to just go, whoa, let's network and send out that love and and empower women to just tick that box, do that. Yeah.
So shameless plugs point for those listening, not watching. So what are your Instagram handles? Are there any businesses that are supporting you that you want to give a shout out to so that people can jump on and support them back for you?
Oh, yes. I think Optic Hunting, they really give a shit. Like they really do. They've always looked after me.
How do they find them?
Pardon?
How do they find them?
So they're on Instagram as well. Yep. I love Nat and Dan. Like as I said, I've got Nat and Dan's. You've had Nat on here. She's just an absolute queen, and I love everything about everything she does. A mother, a hunter, a wife, everything she does. She's just so beautiful. And I've got Rocco's daughter, which is Sila. So we've always got that massive connection. And it's funny because we laugh about that, about Rocco's independence. And I'm like, yeah, Sila's got that. But yeah, I think supporting Nat and Dan, like with their merch and stuff like that. She shares
Australia in case it hasn't come through. So Boring Australia.
Yeah, Lydia, you've had Lydia on as well. Support Lydia with her working dogs. Yeah, like there's so like go to your locals too. Like, like I've got down the road, I've got HD Pumps, which I get all my dog food through like Enduro, like all my Enduro. So excuse me, like Enduro is a Australian owned and operated company. Crazy, like and there's no artificial shit put in their food. And I just love supporting Australian businesses, Australian businesses that are stocking stuff, going out their way to stock stuff for hunters. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap here, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for dropping all of that wisdom. Thank you for saying yes to you and yes to this podcast. It's been absolutely amazing. I'm sure that we'll be around the traps together. In the future,
definitely.
I love what you do, and I love the inspiration that you give to the other people watching you. And thank you for being here. All right, so thanks for listening, and remember, always do the things that light you up, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being part of this community. Women Who Hunt exist because of real stories, real experiences, and women backing women. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing his story with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast and share it with someone who'd appreciate it. And head over to womenwhohunt.com.au and become part of the community. Until next time, take care and keep doing things that